solid bodies which are manufactured and used for various application according to the use. Okay, we are using these engineering materials according to our needs. Okay, in the previous class we had some idea about the ferrous materials. As I said, the ferrous materials are having the iron as chief constituent. Okay, whereas non-ferrous materials are those where they do not contain any iron material in them. So that is the difference between ferrous material and non-ferrous material. And in the ferrous material, we discussed about some materials like pig iron, wrought iron, cast iron. In the cast iron, we studied about gray cast iron, white cast iron, malleable cast iron, spheroidal cast iron. So these are the materials we studied. So another important ferrous material is your steel. Steel is also a ferrous material. Today's class we will discuss about the steel, types of steel, their composition, properties, and uh, applications, etc. Okay.
Applications, etc.
Okay. So all of you are seeing the contents on the screen. Okay. So today we'll discuss about a steel material. Okay. First type of steel is your tool steel. Okay. Tool steels. As we know, for machining, for removing any material from a raw workpiece, we need tools. Okay. For example, your knife. Okay. Knife is a tool. Okay. So in order to remove certain material on a particular part, we need tools. Okay. Those tools are made up of steels. Okay. And we can tell the tool steels are special type of glass steels, and they are mainly used to make the tools in manufacturing process for the machining of your wood, metals, and plastics, etc. For removing any extra material from wood or plastics or metals, we need the tools. Okay, these tools are made up of tool steel material. Okay, and so this tool steels are classified into the following category. Okay, first one is high speed steels. Okay, or HSS steel. Okay, and they are capable of cutting at very high speed, about 4 to 5 times faster than that of carbon steel tools. Okay, carbon steel tools also are there. So but while the machining of any component will prefer the high speed steel because of their properties. Okay, and high speed tool steel is an alloy. Okay, you remember it is alloy steel containing tungsten, molybdenum, chromium, vanadium in their suitable proportion. Okay, so sometimes cobalt is also added to improve the hardness of the steel material. Okay, so cobalt is mainly used to add the additional hardness to the material. Okay, these are the composition of high speed steel. You remember molybdenum, chromium, vanadium, and tungsten are added in suitable proportion, we'll get the tool steel. Okay, and basically there are two types of HSS steels. One is T type HSS steel, and another one is M type HSS type. Okay, HSS means high speed steel. T type means tungsten type. You remember T is nothing but your tungsten, and M is nothing but your molybdenum. When we are having tungsten in the high speed steel, we are calling it as T type high speed steel. Okay, and the tungsten is varies from 12 to 18 percentage, whereas molybdenum varies from 4 to 9 percentage in M type HSS. Okay, and then what is the composition of T type HSS high speed steel? Mainly remember there are three main components: tungsten, chromium, and vanadium. 1841 is the representation of T type HSS steel. 18 means 18 percentage of tungsten, 4 percentage of chromium, and 1 percentage of vanadium. 18% tungsten. You remember T, C, and V. Okay, T means tungsten, C means chromium, and 1 percentage means your vanadium. Okay, so in place of M type HSS steel, this 18 percentage of tungsten is replaced by some percentage of molybdenum. You remember we don't have molybdenum in T type, whereas in case of M type HSS we are having molybdenum. 6642 is the representation of M type HSS. Okay, 6 means your 6 percentage of molybdenum, 6 percentage of tungsten, 4 percentage of chromium, and 2 percentage of vanadium. Okay, so in addition to carbon percentage of 0.6 percentage. Okay, so you remember molybdenum is mainly added to improve the hardness of a material. In certain cases we require extra hardness. In that case we are going for M type HSS steel. Okay, there are two types. One is T type 1841, 18 percentage of tungsten, 4 percentage of chromium, and 1 percentage of vanadium. And M type 6641 means 6642. 6 means 6 percentage of molybdenum, 6 percentage of tungsten, 4 percentage of chromium, and 2 percentage of vanadium. So they'll ask give the classification of HSS means you have to give these two classification. That is, one is T type HSS and M type HSS. Then how about the properties of your high speed steel? As I said, they possesses excellent hardenability. That's why they used in manufacturing of the tools. Okay, and they can retain the hardness up to 600 degrees Celsius. Okay, and they are relatively tough and moderately priced. And all the HSS tools are commonly used for manufacturing of drill bits. I think you might have seen the drilling machine, okay, in workshops and those things for making the holes. So we need the tool. Okay, that tool is made up of HSS tool. Okay, and almost all the machining tools are made up of this high speed tools. Okay, so I'll explain reamers, counterbore, etc. in module 5. That is, we are having a part called as machining operation. Okay, where we are going to use all these tools. Okay, drill bits means manufacturing of drills, holes in a part. Reamers means to produce the threads in a given workpiece. Boring means to enlarge a given hole, that is called as counter boring. Milling cutters, these are all machining operation. All the cutters, machining cutters, are manufactured from high speed steel. Okay, first one is composition, second one is types, and the third one is properties, means excellent hardness, machining characteristic. They can withstand the temperature up to 600 degrees Celsius. They are relatively tough, and they are having moderate price. These are the characteristics of HSS. And finally, application. So manufacturing of all cutting tools. So high speed steel is used. Okay, next we are having the stainless steels. Okay, stainless steels, already you might be knowing stainless steels plays very important role in our day-to-day life for utensils, everything. We are using the stainless steel. Okay, and we can tell the stainless steel as iron and carbon alloy with a chromium ranging from 11.5 percentage to 25 percentage. You remember we are having a chromium only up to 4 to 6 percentage in case of HSS, whereas the chromium is high in case of stainless steels. It varies from around 12% to 25% depending upon the application. Okay, what is the main characteristic feature of chromium is it helps to resist the corrosion in steels. Okay, that's why the stainless steels are mainly used for kitchen purposes. Okay, and it does not corrode at all. Whatever the chromium is there in stainless steel, it prevents the corrosion. Okay, that's why chromium is high percentage in stainless steel. It varies from around 11.5% to 25%. Okay, why the name stainless steel? Stain means your corrosion. Less steels means they prevents the corrosion. That's why the name stainless steel. Stain means corrosion. Okay, that's why the name corrosion. They do not corrode the material. Okay, so the main applications of stainless steel are so manufacturing of kitchen sinks. I think maximum kitchen sinks are made up of stainless steel. In your food processing equipments, then utensils, architectural applications, chemical plants, then earlier days computer floppy disk shutters, computer keyboard key springs, knife blades. Okay, it's one important example. Surgical equipments. Okay, where this we should not have any corrosion. That's why the stainless steel mainly preferred in surgical equipments, your shafts, spindles. Okay, you'll come across in automobile parts. Okay, marine applications, desalination plant, heat exchangers, petrochemical plants where stainless steel is used. You remember where the corrosion. Okay, we are going to prevent the corrosion. In such cases, stainless steels are preferable, mainly for kitchen utensils, kitchen sinks, knives. Then we are having architectural applications, computer keyboards. Everywhere the stainless steel plays very important roles. Even for automobile parts also, like shafts and spindles, the stainless steel material is used. Okay, so one is HSS and second one is stainless steel. So these are the two material which are used as a part of ferrous material. You remember, steel is a ferrous material because it contains the iron in it. Okay, next, copper and its alloys. Okay, I think you might have seen the copper utensils and our things in our day-to-day life. Okay, copper is the non-ferrous material. Okay, it is not ferrous material because it does not contain the iron in it, and it is one of the oldest material discovered by the man. Okay, this is the most important copper. So mainly used in your electrical wires because it is having very good thermal conductivity. Then what are the other properties? The properties of copper includes it is easily malleable and it is corrosion resistance, very good conductor of heat and electricity. That's why everywhere copper is used as a conducting material. Okay, on the other hand, so this copper is having very weak in structure. Okay, compared to iron, this copper is weak because it is easily malleable. Okay, and the tensile strength is also less and hardness is also less as compared to your iron material like gray cast iron or steel. It is very weak. Okay, in compression as well as in tension. Then how we are going to improve the hardness of copper? By means of adding the additional elements. Suppose you take pure copper, it is easily malleable, it is very soft in nature. Okay, but it is having excellent thermal conducting properties. Okay, and mainly we are coming across the two copper alloys. One is brass and another one is bronze. Okay, so already you might have aware about the brass material and bronze material. Okay, first category in copper alloy is brass. Brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. The zinc varies from 5 to 45 percentage, okay, according to the application, okay. And some other elements like lead, tin, silicon also added to improve the properties, okay, so that we can improve the hardness by adding the materials like lead, tin and silicon, etc. You remember the brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. Some additional materials are added to improve the properties of the brass, okay. First one is composition. Second one, what about properties? Properties means brass compared to pure copper, it is having good strength. Ductility, okay. Machinability means easily we can machine. And formability, we can form into any shape, okay. Suppose we use the brass, we can form into any shape by machining or by means of casting, etc. And good electrical and thermal conducting properties. On the other hand, it is having very good resistant property and also wear properties. It can withstand the higher wear properties, okay. Good spark resistance, we can easily will get the spark in case of brass, okay. And it is non-magnetic in nature, whereas all ferrous materials are magnetic in nature. So these are the properties: having good strength, so good ductile nature, machinability and formability, good electrical and thermal conducting properties, having good wear and corrosion resistance, and also non-magnetic in nature. These are all properties of brass. Then where it is used, applications, okay, mainly used for nuts and bolts. I think you might have seen the nuts and bolts where brass is used. Wherever threading comes into picture, this brass is used. Then taps, your taps, injectors, valve bodies, valves, mainly in valves, and then heat exchangers, condenser. This condenser you come across in refrigeration and air conditioning, okay. Condenser is where the change of phase takes place from like vapor to liquid. Condenser, okay, you come across in refrigeration. And heat exchanger, where you come across heat exchanger in vapor absorption refrigeration system, where heat exchanger is used, okay. For the manufacturing of heat exchanger bodies and condenser coil, this brass material is used. Even for your pump bodies, pumping valves, pump fittings, okay. So this brass is used because of its extra strength, machining characteristics and formability characteristic. So these are the application, okay. Remember, the brass is an alloy of copper and zinc, okay. One more is there, alloy of copper is bronze, okay. Okay, bronze. So bronze is the another alloy of copper, okay. Then what is the composition of your bronze? In case of brass, it is a alloy of zinc and copper, whereas bronze is alloy of copper and other than zinc, okay. So 88% is copper, and it is mixed with some elements of phosphorus, lead, etc. To added in small proportion to improve the hardness properties, okay. So it is the alloy of copper and tin, you remember, okay. Bronze is alloy of copper and tin, whereas brass is alloy of copper and zinc, okay. Zinc is not used in case of bronze. It is the alloy of copper and tin, okay. So next, and some proportion of lead, phosphorus, etc. is added in both the alloy to improve the hardness characteristics, okay. So other than tin, so other elements such as silicon, beryllium or aluminum added in the bronze, but tin is not used. You remember? Sorry, in case of bronze, zinc is not used. Okay, it is alloy of copper and tin. So there is no existence of zinc in case of bronze. Alloy of copper and tin. You remember 88 percentage of your copper, around 10 percentage of tin, and remaining 1 percentage is your phosphorus or lead to improve the properties. Then what are the properties of bronze? So bronze, as we know, it is soft in nature, it is corrosion resistance, and it possesses better hardness properties. And once again, it is very good conductor of heat and electricity as compared to steel material. And one drawback of bronze is that the cost is high, okay, as compared to steel. The brass and bronze are costlier in nature as compared to steel materials. Okay, then where it is used? Okay, the bronze is mainly used in case of electrical contacts in spring structure, bushes, clutches, marine pumps. Okay, and condenser tubes. Once again, we're using the brass in condenser. On the other hand, bronze is also used in case of condenser coils, pump casing, pump fittings, then wall bodies, wall parts, etc. This bronze is used. Okay, so whatever material it is, first you have to write the composition. Okay, like 88 percentage of copper, 10 percentage of tin, and remaining percentage of lead, etc. Next comes your properties like additional machining characteristics, a very good hardness, and then good electrical and thermal conducting properties, good corrosion resistance, good vibration resistance, like that. These are the properties. And finally, the application part where it is used. Okay, the bronze are mainly used in the utensils. Okay, then bronze lamps. I think you might have seen the lamps made up of bronze or brass. Okay, next in case of pump bodies, then taps, walls. Next, mainly in electrical equipments, this bronze is used. Okay, so one material is your brass bronze. So this is the non-ferrous material. Okay. Next, I'll discuss another important non-ferrous material is your aluminium. Okay, so aluminium is silverish in color, silverish white color. It is a non-ferrous material extracted from bauxite minerals. We are getting the aluminium from bauxite minerals. Okay, few characteristics of aluminium alloy are, okay, so compared to other material, it is relatively light in nature. We can easily machine the aluminium part. That's why it is easily machinable and can have wide variety of surface finish. Surface finish is very smooth in case of aluminium compared to other materials. Suppose if you machine the iron and steel, etc., so we'll get the rough surface finish. Whereas when you machine the aluminium component, we'll get the smooth surface finish. Okay, it is having good reflective properties to heat and electricity, and once again it is very good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, as compared to your copper, brass, and bronze. Even aluminum is also having the very good conducting of heat and electrical properties. Another important property of aluminum is that it can be cast easily. So you can pour the molten metal into the molds. You can get the desired shape easily. Next, it can be rolled out, means we can make into different shapes. Drawns means you can do it anyway. We can make the thin plates, thick plates. We can drawn into the wires. That is the process of drawing. Next, hammering action, extruded and forged. Means these are all casting related properties. We can easily pour the molten metal in the molds. Easily we can do the machining. Easily we can hammer. Easily we can extrude. These are all the properties of aluminum. And one more important property is it is very strong resistance to the corrosion, like your brass and bronze. And one advantage is it is very light in nature. Okay. These are the properties. On the other hand, it is ductile material. It is very weak in nature. Okay. So then how to improve the aluminum hardness? By adding the material like copper, silicon, magnesium, etc. We can improve the hardness of aluminum. Okay. So next, applications. Okay, what are the applications of your aluminum? Okay. So this aluminum plays very important role in aircraft applications. The maximum aeroplane parts are made up of the aluminum because of they are very light in nature. They are corrosion resistance. They can easily shape into the any parts. Because of these properties, the aluminum is most widely used in aircraft properties and automobile vehicles, like you studied in IC engine. The pistons are made up of aluminum. In spacecrafts applications and even in all marine parts and similar applications, the aluminum material is used. Okay, everywhere in aircrafts, in automobiles, in case of marine application, in spacecraft, where the aluminum plays very important role, where the weight is a major factor. Okay, even this aluminum can be used in the cables, electrical wires, winding of motors, generators, transformers, etc. This aluminum is used. Okay, and even this aluminum are used in reflectors because having very good reflecting properties, heat resistance for firefighting, and it is also used for household applications. In domestic purpose, the aluminum plays. Okay, so remember the aluminum is obtained from bauxite mineral, very lightweight, very good resisting properties, very good corrosion resistant properties. Okay, it is ductile in nature. Okay, because of this, this is widely used in aircraft and spacecraft applications. Okay. Okay. One more material I want to discuss in this class is plastics or polymers. Okay, plastics. Okay, so plastics, so other than ferrous or non-ferrous materials. Okay. Okay. Then what is the plastic? We can say the plastic is the group of polymers that are built in form to form a simple unit. It's called as monomers. Through chemical polymerization process, will obtain the plastics. Okay. And then types of plastics. Okay, there are mainly two types of plastics. One is thermoset plastic and second one is thermoplastics. Already studied this plastic concepts in second PUC. Okay. Then what about thermoset plastics? It is also called as thermosets. Okay. The thermoset plastics possesses cross-linked structure. Okay, cross-linked structure. You see the diagram. This is a cross-linked structure. Okay, there is a cross-linking of the atoms in case of thermoset plastics, whereas thermoplastics possesses the linear structure. You see, this is a linear structure, and in some cases branch structure. Okay, so we are having crossed arrangement of atoms in case of thermoset plastics. We are having linear or branched structure in case of thermoplastics. Okay, and here the atoms are held together by means of a strong primary covalent bonds. Okay, and here in case of thermoplastics, the atoms are held together by means of weak secondary bonds. They are also called as van der Waals bonds. Okay, here, this one in case of thermoset plastics, the atoms are held together by means of a strong primary covalent bonds, whereas in case of thermoplastics, the atoms are held together by means of weak secondary bonds. Okay. Hello. Next, third difference is it is become permanently hard, okay, when it is heated. So when you heat the thermoset plastics, they becomes permanently hard, okay, and it is not possible to soften further upon subsequent heating. Once you heat it, gone, means it becomes completely hard, and it is not possible to reprocess the thermoset plastic because of a strong primary covalent bonds in case of thermoset plastics, whereas the thermoplastics are having the weak bonds. It is very easy to soften on heating and harden when in cooled. So when you heat, they become soft, and when you cool, they becomes hard. So according to the heating and cooling, so we can change the properties of thermoplastics. But for thermoset plastic, it is not like that. They becomes very hard when we heat the thermoset plastics. It is not possible to reprocess upon the heating. On the other hand, thermoset plastics are very soft in nature. Okay, they become soft when you heat, and they become hard when you cool, and reprocessing is possible in case of thermoplastics. Okay, and the fourth difference is that so it is suitable at low and high temperatures. Okay, so this thermoset plastic, they are suitable for the higher temperature as well as lower temperature, but these thermoplastics are suitable only for at lower temperature. Okay, lower temperature. And then as I said, the atoms are bonded by strong primary covalent bonds. Hence, the nature of thermoset plastic will be harder, stronger, and they are brittle in nature. Okay. So on the other hand, thermoset plastics are very soft and flexible. We can say it as ductile. Okay, soft and flexible means ductile material. Hard means brittle material. You remember? Okay. Next, they shows very good resistance to the fluids and solvents. Sometimes we are using lubricating oil in case of the machining parts. In such cases, so these are most useful. That is thermoset plastic. They are having very good resisting properties to fluids and solvents. On the other hand, thermoplastics are having the poor properties. Okay. Next, related to electrical resistance and dimension stability. So these possess the better resisting and dimensional stability, and these possess lower stability. Okay. So next, thermoplastics have indefinite shelf life, whereas this thermoset plastics have definite shelf life. Okay. The next cannot be recycled. As I said, when you heat the material, we cannot reprocessed. On the other hand, we can reprocess. So scraps can be recycled, and hence it is economical in nature. So that it is, this thermoset plastics are very strong. Means they are having the storage life will be more, and here storage life will be less. Okay. Next, in terms of applications, okay, thermoset plastics are mainly used for manufacturing of telephone receivers, electric plugs, radio and TV cabinets, camera bodies, aircraft and automobile parts, circuit breakers, where the hardness plays a very important role, like your telephone cables, then electrical cables, electrical plugs, radio cabinet, TV cabinet, camera bodies, aircraft and automobile parts, then switch panels, where thermoset plastic is used. On the other hand, this thermoplastics are mainly used for making of toys, combs, toilet goods, next insulating tapes, hoses, means the strength is less, the electrical insulation, etc. For hard bodies, we are going to prefer thermoset plastics. On the other hand, where the strength is not required, in that case, the thermoplastics are used, like making of toys, combs, toilet goods, photographic films, insulatings, materials, etc. Okay. It's all about plastics. You remember what are the plastics, and then the classification of plastics, and then difference between thermoset plastics and thermo plastics. Okay. One more material I want to discuss is your insulators. Okay. I think you might have studied insulating materials. Okay. The insulators are different, conductors are different, and semiconductors are different. Okay. So first you studied conducting material. Copper, brass, and bronze are very good conductors of the heat. And in some cases, we need insulating material. Okay. So compared to conducting material, insulator is a material which is poor conductor of heat and electricity. Okay. Then what are the examples of insulator? Your wood, plastic, ceramic materials like glass, rubber, plastics are the common examples of insulator. Okay. Then what is the characteristic feature of insulator is that they possess high resisting nature. Okay. So for example, your sellotapes, and then rubbers, then glass, means heat does not flow easily in insulating material. Wood, rubber, plastic materials are the main examples of insulator, means they are having high resisting characteristics. The electric charge do not flow freely as in case of conductors and semiconductors. Okay. So then where is the application? So we have to enclose the electrical wires with suitable insulation. Okay. So this electrical wires, cables are often coated with the insulating materials. PCBs, printed circuit boards, are usually made up of epoxy plastic and fiberglass. In case of power distribution or transmission lines, make use of glass, porcelain, and composite polymer materials to protect the dangerous effects of the electricity. Means so we should take extra care to transfer the electricity from one part to another part. It should be well insulated. So such insulating materials, they resist the transfer of the heat from one portion to another portion. Okay. And so the examples of insulator are fiber, plastic, minerals, cellulose, wood. Okay. These are the example of insulator. The main characteristic feature of insulator is to resist the flow of heat. Okay. So three things comes into picture. One is conductor, second one is insulator, and third one is your semiconductors. Already you studied semiconducting materials in where solar panels, where semiconducting materials, that is PV cell, photovoltaic cell, semiconducting materials are used. Then what is a semiconducting material? Okay, so here electrical conductivity is too high in case of conducting material. The conductivity is too less in case of insulator, so that the value of electrical conductivity is lies in between conductors and insulator in case of semiconductors. Okay, so semiconductors, the components of semiconductors are you studied germanium or silicon. Mainly silicon is used as a semiconducting material. I think you studied this silicon material in solar photovoltaic cell. Okay, where silicon is used. We are having a p-type junction and n-type junction. Okay, and you studied the doping effect. Okay, so doping is a process which greatly increases, which it increases the strength. Okay, we have to by providing some impurities, by adding the some impurities in the structure, that is called as doping. Okay, we can increase the strength of semiconducting material by means of doping. Okay, so the conducting characteristics lies in between the conductor and semiconducting materials, and one doping effect. Okay, the main examples of semiconductors are your germanium, silicon. Okay, next, the application of your semiconductors, mainly used in integrated circuits, that is IC circuits. So where you'll find the IC circuits? Mainly in cell phones, laptops, scanners, medical diagnostic equipments, refrigeration, air conditioning, and programmable machines and robots. So where the conductivity of the heat is moderate. Okay, neither it is too high nor it is too less, where the medium heat transfer application is required. In that case, we are going for semiconducting materials like silicon or germanium. So applications of semiconductors are mainly in integrated chips, integrated circuits, laptops, mobile phones, medical diagnostic equipments, refrigeration, air conditioning, and programmable machines and robots, etc. Okay. Okay. So have you gone through the materials? Have you understood? Okay. Ankit Kumar. Ankit Kumar. Okay. Uh, Anbhav Sahu. Are you there? Anbhav Sahu.
Yes, sir.
I have followed.
Yes, sir.
What are things?
Yes, sir.
Can you? What are things you learned today? Can you tell me? Can you highlight? Anbhav Sahu. What are the things I explained in today's class? Can you highlight? Okay. Anbhav. Rohit, are you there? Rohit Lochib.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Okay. So what are things you learned today? Rohit. Rohit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining. Okay, in this class, we learnt about the non-ferrous materials like high-speed steel. Next, we discussed tool steels, the copper and its alloys, brass and bronze. Next, we discussed about the plastics, difference between plastics and thermoplastics, and then we discussed insulators and semiconductors. Okay, these are the materials we discussed in this class. Okay, in the next class we'll discuss some more materials. Okay, thank you for joining. Okay, I'll stop the meeting now only. Okay, thanks for your participation.